We spent a little bit of time yesterday, Sandy, talking about the addition of Ryan Johansson and how it tangentially became necessary because Alex Newhook did not rise to the level of performance where the Avs felt comfortable with putting him as the second-line center. Well, perhaps they felt even more strongly about that than we thought because today the Avs trade Newhook to the Montreal Canadiens in exchange for the Canadiens' first overall pick in tomorrow's draft, which is the 31st overall, their second pick in tomorrow's draft, 37th overall, and defenseman Gianni Fairbrother, who was a third-rounder in the 2019 NHL draft, has yet to make his NHL debut and sat it all last year with a knee injury. Just kind of a throw-in prospect. But it is really Newhook for a first and a second, and
a late first.
And that is an interesting move because they are not going to find you can make the argument that Alex Newhook was not going to be a second-line guy, but certainly was in your bottom two lines. And even though the expectation would be better than that for him, you're not going to find even a bottom six guy in this draft immediately. No one from 31, 37, or even the Avs number 27 pick is going to immediately come to the NHL.
No. But remember yesterday, and I can't remember the qualifier I used, but I basically said that he was using some type of qualifier, a bust. The Avalanche removed the qualifier. The Avalanche concluded that, in fact, he was a full-fledged bust.
They get no NHL ready help.
And made a deal that involved essentially giving him to the Montreal Canadiens on a silver platter and saying, we'll take your first two picks, but neither one's in the top 30. So even as bad as you are, if you use those two picks, you wouldn't be drafting a regular player for next year, certainly not on either of the top two lines or on the top two defense tandems. And Montreal said, thanks. Maybe a change of scenery will ignite this kid.
And perhaps it will. And hopefully it will. Who knows? But for the Avs,
he was
30 points last year while playing in all 82 games.
He was a major disappointment, if not a monumental bust.
16th overall pick in the 2019 draft. And it appeared at times at which he might sort of catch fire and turn into the scorer and skater that they expected. It just never panned out. And in Newhook's case, look, doesn't even turn 23 until next January. So maybe there is reason to believe if you're the Canadiens that there's something that can be done with that maybe it's lack of playing time or maturity or whatever. And they could be right.
There is a philosophy that I think certainly applies to hockey, that you don't pass definitive judgment on players before they turn 23.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe even 24. All right.
And he's still 22.
You've got to show some signs, some flashes even. I don't remember seeing him flash, really.
The problem is,
he had some stretches that looked okay, but was he ever a guy you trusted to be out there in a key situation? Was he an integral part of the power play? No. Could he kill a penalty or two from time to time?
Right.
No, he couldn't do that. Was he, as you so properly suggest, ever a legitimate top six forward? Answer to that is no. Even with the injuries they had last year. I mean, JT Compher ended up being a top six forward because Alex Newhook was so bad last year. And, I mean, they gave him ample opportunity. He certainly had excellent coaching along the way. And they exercised as much patience as any reasonable organization could be expected to apply toward a first-round pick who was
16th
picked
overall
in the middle of the first round, not late, not late in the first round. I mean, nobody thought he'd be a phenom. I don't say that.
Mhm.
Top 10, top 15 pick, maybe you get a good player, maybe even a top 6 forward. Sometimes you get a phenom, but that tends to come within the first 5 picks of the draft. Nobody expected him to be a phenom. They expected him by now, especially after Kadri left, to be a legitimate second-line forward. And even as recently as yesterday, Peter Baugh of The Athletic, in projecting line combinations in the wake of the Johansson deal, had Newhook playing left wing on the second line next to Johansson and Rantanen. And you're thinking, as I said yesterday, I'll give it till February, okay? Which obviously
Even the
Avalanche weren't
right.
prepared to do. I said, I give it to February because I think I have a pretty good idea of what Johansson will do and a very good idea what Rantanen will do, or Rodriguez or whoever else they end up putting on the other wing. And maybe Rantanen stays up on the top line. Who knows? But this is just a projection. I said I give it till February. If it isn't working by then, you got to trade him. First of all, I thought, well, okay, they trade him in February. They'll still get something for him, and that something would be a first-round pick in the top 25 somewhere. This is the second to last pick of the first round, if I'm not mistaken, and an early second-round pick. Okay,
right.
But they didn't give away anything in the Johansson deal, and they're not getting anything in this
Certainly
deal
nothing immediate.
except the chance that maybe one out of these 3 players years from now will become a functional player on the third or fourth line, and if you're really, really lucky, maybe on the second line. That's it. That's the ceiling from what you got for Alex Newhook, who was supposed to be a second-line forward.
Yeah.
Certainly by now.
a
Probably
major cog
by a
going
year
forward.
ago at this time was supposed to be a second-line forward.
You brought up one of the names that I think is interesting because you talked about when you're talking about moving away from Newhook, we talk about Evan Rodriguez. Rodriguez is an unrestricted free agent. Now, Newhook was a restricted free agent, and presumably Montreal is going to get him taken care of. But that tells me, especially given that role, that the Avalanche are either somewhat down the road with or are willing to meet in the middle to retain Rodriguez, because some of that money has been freed up. That position, without receiving any NHL help in return, you either better return Evan Rodriguez or you're going shopping, and you don't know if that's going to be as good a fit. So I think Rodriguez now becomes one of the very interesting. We know Byram's going to get taken care of as a fellow restricted free agent.
And we have a pretty good idea that somebody's going to offer Comfort at $6 million a year, maybe $5 million, between $5 and $6 million a year. Somebody's going to offer him that, and the Avalanche can't go there, no matter how much money they save from this Alex Newhook deal. So I do think Comfort's gone.
I think Rodriguez becomes
Byram
the play.
resigns, and Rodriguez is the guy you're able to keep now using some of the Newhook money.
Right. I think that's the idea of where they're going. That's just basically reading the tea leaves. Not anybody I've had a chance to talk to. This trade happened, midday today. But I suspect that's what makes the most sense, because the Avs know they have a player that fit well and continued to play better for them as time went along. But I want to know what you think about that, of course. 303-831-1340 is the text and call number. What does it mean for the Avalanche?
This guy did play for a Stanley Cup championship team.
He's played big numbers. Sandy, let me give you the numbers before we hop away here. So, 3 years in the league. Let's go to the first year he played, which 21-22 season. They won the Cup.
Right.
71 games. In those 71 games, 13 goals, 20 assists, 33 points, plus 11 on the year.
Right.
A shot percentage of 11.5. He had 3 power play goals and 3 power play assists. And his time on ice at 13 minutes, 33 seconds.
Yeah, that's a third, fourth line.
Production.
Regular.
The production rate at 29.11, which basically means that's how long you're on the ice when you score an average number of points. In other words, if you had 2 points in 20 minutes, you'd have a production time of 10. 1 point every 10 minutes is what you scored. So here's where the problem, I think, manifested. He jumped from 71 to 82 games. The goals went up by 1, 13 to 14. The assists went down 20 to 16. So the points went down by 3, 33 to 30. The plus minus went from plus 11 to 0. The shot percentage went up slightly, 11.5 to 12.1, but power play goals and power play assists each went down from 3 to 1. He went from his 6 power play points to 2. 2 power play points in 82 games. Not playing on special teams. The time on ice only went up 24 seconds a game, so that shows you where Jared Bednar felt about it.
And that was with a ton of injuries, too. That's the only reason.
The production dropped from 29 minutes and 11 seconds on ice between points to 38:08, barely.
I mean, I'm sorry, that's awful. For a guy who is advertised as a scorer and a skater, he neither scored in the fashion you'd expect, nor did he appear to be unusually fast. I'm sorry, we watched him for several years, and there was never a point watching him.
Bowen Byram looked
which
fast.
I
There was
said,
explosions there, but but not Newhook.
But I'm saying Alex Newhook doesn't seem to me qualified to be categorized as an explosive skater.
Right.
He's not.
I don't think so either.
I'm not saying he's slow.
And on a team
I'm saying
with
his speed doesn't stand out.
1 year more of experience, increased opportunity, Newhook across the board produced less. And I think for the Avalanche, and this is the trick with any sport, right? I tend to talk about it more in baseball, but it's any sport. If you can play in the league, you can play in the league, and it shows your first full year. It shows. So could Newhook play in the NHL? Yeah. Okay. Then the league adjusts to you because now they've seen you for a year. Now, how do you adjust to the adjustments? The great players will come through and still go forward and look like they're growing and getting better. Newhook regressed. After the league got to see what he did, he regressed. Despite being on a team that, despite all its injuries, still ended up with a very respectable season. Despite the increased opportunities, produced less than ever before. I agree with your initial sentiment. I don't think you give up on a guy who's 22 entirely and say he can't play. But I think you can say he's not a star. I think you can say he's never going to be a top 6 guy. I think it's okay to say that. And I think the Avalanche decided instead of waiting and hoping that there's a better trade offer available, let's just take what we can get right now and rip the Band-Aid off.
Where are you going to put him on a third or fourth line? He's not an especially impressive checker, right? He doesn't kill penalties. So how could you justify putting him on a third and fourth line, alternating, sometimes third line, sometimes fourth line, when he brings scoring to the table, but he's not playing with scorers. He's playing with people who have more of a defensive inclination. And all you're really getting from him, or expecting from him even, is production. He's not good enough offensively to play on the top 2 lines. He's not good enough defensively to see significant ice time on the third, fourth line. He became, I think, by the end of the Seattle series, to me, he became 9, 10, 11-minute a game player.
That's not far off the 13 and change he got in the regular season.
That's what he was at the end of the season. And that's a first-round pick who was expected to have made a breakthrough. Now, the 21-22 season was fine, but you had regression last year. Unbelievable.
Yeah. Well, we'll have a chance to talk more about that, but if you have been injured, by the way, you need a win. That's where you need to talk to our friends, the winners at Burn.